Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Tea with the Supremes. Last week, we were talking about some intense topics, and we've just wrapped up talking about boundaries, personal boundaries, family boundaries. And coming off of that episode, and also as Supremes, us coming off of a quarter of school and needing a break, we are going to focus this conversation on self-care and what that means for us as we go into this career in counseling and just ways to prioritize self-care. So ladies, I'm here with Cassandra, Mitra, and Ebony again. Say hi, everyone.
Hey.
What's up, everybody?
Hello.
What is that kind of hello?
Like, I'm here.
I need you to work on your self-care. Okay, we ready.
Facts.
So let's start with, what does self-care mean to you?
Self-care means that I ain't about to go to jail because I've assaulted someone. Self-care means that I can ground myself and recenter myself and be able to effectively strategize and reevaluate if necessary any particular situations. It's more of setting the slate clean, if you will. That's what self-care means to me.
I
love that comment about setting the slate clean. It's like a reset. What about you, Ebony?
I like the whole not go to jail thing. Unicorn, I'm a rock on that too. That's kind of nice. Because orange is not the new black. Let's be clear. Self-care. Self-care is, let's be honest, I don't know. I don't know. As we're entering onto this journey, I'm learning what that is. I'm learning to prioritize taking care of myself, not overwhelming myself more than necessary. And I tend to do that. So I don't know what a definition of self-care is. I'm learning a lifestyle of self-care, if that kind of makes sense. So it's not a one-time something that I do, or when I'm overwhelmed, then I remember to breathe. I'm trying to live a lifestyle that includes caring about me.
What about you, Cass?
Self-care for me is taking that time out of my day to, even if it's just 10 minutes, Jules, me and you being those INFJs, we need those, those mental resets. Even if it's just saying to my partner, I just need 10 minutes to decompress. That's a form of self-care for me. My self-care has been revolved around a lot of activities I like to do for self-care to help distract my mind from the realities of my world. There's a lot going on. So, yeah, I think mine's more activity-based self-care. What about you?
I'm very, very similar. So I think a lot of people get confused when thinking about self-care, and that, taking care of your body, eating well, and exercising, which is great. And that is a version of caring for yourself. But self-care is really what you need to put yourself in a good headspace. And sometimes it's nonsense. Honestly, for me, my mind is going all the time, and I'm juggling so many things, and I'm like devote myself entirely to my family, probably to a fault. So sometimes it's just like after everyone goes to bed, like watching mind-numbing TV or playing Animal Crossing or doing things that are just nonsense, but it's just a way for my mind to just turn off and me to just reset and chill and just not worry, not stress, just relax. So that's a big part of it for me, just laughing. I love watching like stand up, talking to my Supremes. That's self-care for me.
Hear that?
Listen, we're here for it.
Amen to that.
I think I can see clearly, or maybe I can see clearer as I listen to you so eloquently express it, Supremes. Shout out to you guys. It was difficult when we started this process together, to have a clear understanding. There is a clinical definition to self-care, but what I had to understand and what I'm still learning is that self-care is subjective. It is very subject to you and what works for you, as my fellow Supremes know, but I am transitioning lifestyles to vegan-ish, vegan-ish, and that honestly was a form of self-care for me, to kind of take a holistic approach to my life, and that included friends, acquaintances, relationships, goals, dreams, what I do with my body and what I put in my body. So I'm learning that self-care is very subjective, and what's care for you does not require my approval, nor does it require me to participate in what's care for you, because part of that care in the throes of by the time we're in week 5 or 6 of a quarter, and especially like the one we just came off of, mind-numbing TV is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And we will recommend things to watch. And we still wind up finding an intellectual approach to it. And you can see it, and we start analyzing. We start analyzing the characters on the show, and then it becomes a whole discussion with us. But that's a part of self-care, and it's cool. So for me, self-care was learning. The first step of self-care was learning that I don't have to meet a criteria for self-care. As long as it is, that care for me, then it's self-care.
Right. One of the things they really push in our program is the metaphor, talking about if you are on an airplane and the oxygen masks come down, you always put the mask on yourself before helping other people. And that's really what they try to implant in our brains as we move into the helping profession, is that you really need to prioritize yourself and your well-being over everyone else. And I know personally, and as a mother, I found that very difficult. It's still like a work in progress. But for you ladies, what do you think? Do you struggle with that aspect of just prioritizing yourself above others?
Yep. Yeah. But it definitely hit home sitting on the airplane, and they're like, oh, well, if you have any children with you, elderly, please secure your masks before attempting to help them. And I'm sitting there looking at a mom and a daughter, and it's just like the daughter was maybe, I don't know, 10 to 12. And it's just like, what? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that it really clicked until I had the visualization of the mom putting on the mask for herself before her baby. And it's just like, how do you do that as a mom? But then as like life preservation, it's like it's embedded to do that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In terms of self-preservation. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, it's an inner battle. And it's like, I guess you don't know whether or not you'd actually do it until you're in that position. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, in a traumatic experience, I struggled to understand how to do it. Like, I get the logic, but I don't. But then like in terms of personal experiences, like day-to-day stuff, it's like, it's difficult being, a helper and then having to prioritize myself, because it's like, okay, well, what do I need? What do I have to do? You know
Mhm.
what I mean? It's just weird, but it does, with anything else, with practice, it does get easier, but it is just a little uncomfortable in the beginning.
I
Nitra,
agree.
asking
There's
that
a lot of
question,
breathing.
I think you asking that, getting to the point of even asking that question of what do I need? Because as parents, as we go into this profession, all those things that make us qualified for this profession, we don't ask that question of ourselves. What do you
Yep.
need? We don't even think about us as if we need anything. And it's like, dude, did you, even today, I've been busy, let's just say. And as we were getting ready to begin this conversation, it was like, it's nighttime. And I was like, dude, did I eat today? Okay, I didn't eat today. I didn't do, and I took care of everything else. And it's like, okay, you have to remember that's not how this works. And if I'm dead, then all the things that should have gotten taken care of, all the things I was concerned about, they still go on. It may not be to the capacity or how you wanted it, but it's still, life still goes on and it revolves. So asking that question of yourself is, I think, the foundation of self-care.
Yeah, I think too, something that a lot of people struggle with, a lot of mothers I know struggle with, but I think it's probably more general than that, is prioritizing yourself versus being selfish. And I think that it is selfish, but to a benefit. So when I started prioritizing myself, which honestly wasn't until recently, I do notice when I spend the effort to focus on myself and do things that I enjoy or things for me exclusively, that alters my interactions with my kids. It creates a more positive me. I'm thinking with a more clear head. So while it is selfish and taking care of me, it trickles down to my relationships and my interactions with others. So the prioritization of myself is really beneficial to everyone.
See, I want to take that a step further, Jules, and say, not just as mothers, because we are moms, but Cass is a four-legged mom. So I think as women, as we get into this gender roles and how we perceive things in our cultures, respective cultures, that it is almost automatically assumed, whether you have children or not, that you are in that almost subservient role, and you take care, you serve. I don't mean it as in beneath, which could be true in some cases, but that it is your responsibility to serve everyone else and then serve you. And you said selfish, and I used to think that way, but learning this goal of self-care and that gene that I talked about before, that you just really don't care after 40, is not even selfish. It is actually very healthy, because dealing with a better version of me and not a stressed out, unkind version of me, because that's what happens when I'm lacking personally. So I don't even want to call it selfish. I don't even like that, the connotation.
Yeah, I think that selfish is a good word, but I think of it the other way. Like, I think the connotation is negative usually, but I don't think being selfish is a bad thing. I think it can be, but I don't think it's wrong to be selfish, to take care of yourself.
Agree.
It's not.
I just think people find difficulty doing it.
Yeah.
People find difficulty doing it because others find difficulty accepting.
That's a good point.
Nice. Yeah. Like that.
What were you gonna say, Cass?
Well, and kind of piggybacking off of what Ebony was saying, being a female and automatically being placed into this, I don't want to say servant role, because that's not what we are, but that's what society kind of places us in, is taking care of, prioritizing everybody and then worrying about yourself. It's almost like you have to retrain your mind to not feel guilty for taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I'm learning to do still. And going back to boundaries, learning when to say, no, I can't, I'm overwhelmed right now. That's a form of self-care too. Like knowing your
Absolutely.
limits and
Mhm.
knowing when you're being pushed to the edge, and knowing when to say, no, I can't help you with that. No, I can't go to this event. Like so many times I've always pushed myself outside of my comfort zone, which is fine to a certain extent, but yeah, I
I
shouldn't come
can.
home and feel exhausted.
Yeah. So I was going to mention that. So with our personality type, one of the things that tend to happen is if we go, especially to social situations where we're either uncomfortable or don't necessarily want to be there, or some can be, we want to be there. It's just, it's a lot for us mentally, and it's exhausting. And you can finish a social activity that you enjoyed and still just be like, I need days to just not socialize. And that in itself is self-care. Ignoring texts when you're not in a place to respond, that's self-care. There's a difference between depression, ignoring texts and not responding to people, and just knowing I don't have the energy to deal with this right now, or I don't have the desire to deal with this conversation right now, so I'm going to take me time and just handle this later when I'm in a better headspace.
I want you to repeat that for my family who has a problem with me ignoring text and phone calls, as they are calling actually right now. Listen, I didn't know it was self-care, but I'm very good at doing that. Probably other people that are being ignored will disagree with that. But I am at a point where I choose. Part of that self-care is choosing who I interact with. Mm-hmm. What I'm learning at this stage in my life, when I understand I'm not looking forward to death, but I'm a lot closer to death than I am to, these glory, I don't know, times and days and whatever, it's coming. Death is imminent. The one commodity I cannot get back, I cannot replace, is time. So I am careful. To a fault of where I spend my time and who I choose to spend my time with. So that means if I don't answer you, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm okay with that. And I don't make excuses to say, oh, I was busy. No, I'm going to tell you, I don't want to talk to you, or this isn't the time. Sometimes it takes me a minute to process some things. I remember a conversation I was having off air with the Supremes, and it took me some time to process and to see a different perspective, because there are other perspectives and other sides to just your limited view. I don't care how expanded you are, your view is still limited to what you have experienced and who you are. So that form of self-care, I didn't realize it was self-care, but understanding now, looking back, it became self-care. When you pick up the phone and a person that calls you and it's like, woe is me every day, it is, oh my God, do I have to talk to them? And you start to feel ailments that you didn't even know you had when you finish talking to them. Like, I don't have that energy to do that. I don't have that energy to give. So not going to jail, great representation, because some people really try to make, get out of character. Being comfortable, taking care of yourself and not feeling as if it is my responsibility to serve every individual around me and take care of every individual around me, and then not being selfish to yourself, if that makes sense. Double negative. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But, being okay with taking care of self, the combination of all those things, that's Yeah, I can take all of that as my self-care. Appreciate it, Supremes.
So how do you guys recognize, what's your warning signs or your symptoms, or how do you recognize when your self-care is slipping and you realize that you're not prioritizing yourself and that you need to readjust? And then how do you do that?
I see that smile cast. What's that? What's that?
Do you want the sugar-coated version or do you want the real?
Real
We
deal.
sipping tea. Give us the tea.
Mhm.
Honestly, when I was just saying this to you guys the other day, like I literally feel like I'm gonna explode. Like that's like the best way I can describe it. When I feel like I'm just gonna self-combust, that's when I know I need to practice some form of self-care. Yeah. Or like Mike will say to me, he'll be like, "You're really angry." He calls me an angry elf because I'm very short. Like, "You're an angry elf." I'm like, "I'm always an angry elf, but I'm especially an angry elf." So yeah, that's the real. Don't explode is the moral
So
of the story.
when you catch yourself like feeling overly angry, what do you do to reset yourself, or what do you do to force yourself to take care of yourself?
Well, I have recently taken on yoga as a hobby. So it involves two things that I love dearly: exercise and mindfulness. I am a former power lifter, but powerlifting broke my body, therefore I cannot be lifting heavy ass weights anymore. So I'm this time around on my fitness journey, I'm taking the time to listen to my body. And there's this one instructor, I take the Peloton yoga classes, Chelsea Jackson Roberts. She's amazing. She's fabulous. She's a guru. I love her. But she always starts the practices of, what are your intentions for this time, this 45 minutes you're taking this class? What are your intentions for your practice? What are you going to feel? What like headspace are you in? And it kind of helps you shift that mindset, at least for me, from like a negative mindset to a more positive mindset by the time I'm done with that 45 minutes. And I kind of, at the end of it, I'm kind of just like I'm good now. Like
Deep breath.
I can relax again.
What about my other Supremes? How do you guys catch yourself lacking in self-care?
Well, I cuss like a sailor normally. However, the F-bombs increase by a shit ton, you know? So when everything is F this, F that, F everything, you know, then I'm like, all right, you know, maybe, you know, it's time to slow down me. Or I catch myself having a bit of an attitude all the time. And it's just like, all right, it's time now. And then for what I do, it really depends on what's been going on. Like if it's been, you know, just stress related, period, then I'd probably like take a stroll outside in the grass barefoot just to kind of help ground myself, you know. And then I was gonna say that recently I found that there were wolf spiders in the grass, so I don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you know, that's not pleasant. But now it's just kind of music and
Music's a good one. Yeah.
yeah, it is. Music and candles.
Love
Sit
it.
it right in my windowsill and just jam out.
I love both of those. Nature, I love going on hikes. There's something about, so I live in a pretty urban area, but we like to hike and just, I don't want to live in the woods, but I don't mind looking for the bugs and the snakes and stuff while we're out and just like feeling the breeze and all that. I don't want to live there, but I enjoy the hikes. And then music for sure. I have playlists for everything. Like if I'm overly angry, I got an angry playlist. I got like all the feels playlist, and then just dance it out, scream it out, whatever. That's a good
Literally.
one. Mm-hmm.
You listen to death metal when you're angry.
Literally.
I like more like
would-
hardcore hip hop. I'm big on the lyrics. Although I do like stuff with a good beat, like anything from the early 2000s hip hop, I'm all about that. Just for dancing and stuff, but I'm big on lyrics as well.
Well,
Agreed.
where words fail, music speaks.
Extremely profound cast.
I
That's extremely,
absolutely agree. Mhm.
because I personally believe that music is spiritual and it can take you to whatever place and in time and history you remember. Music can transport you there, at least for me. So
Mhm.
that's a definite part of my self-care routine, that prayer, that right there. How do I know? Oh, because I'm evil. How do I know? I am very mean. I begin to snap at people, and I am very short-tempered, which is not something I always am. If you ask certain family members, they tell you I'm moody all the time. I don't really feel that way, whatever. But when I have to check me and I'm like, after it's said and done, dude, why are you angry? Like, you woke up angry. Who wakes up angry? Like, why are you? And it's like, okay, Ebony, you need to check you, because you're out of control. And then I am intentional with what I say, but I'm never intentional to hurt the recipient, whether it's positive or negative. I'm not seeking to hurt the person that should be receiving the information, because negative information still can be received. We receive feedback all the time, and it's not always positive. So, hearing it should be okay. It may cause some kind of distress, but it should not just break you down when you hear it. And when I am intentionally saying things that brings and causes harm, then that's evident of me needing to pull back and reevaluate where I'm at and what I'm saying and what I'm doing.
I can relate to that. My family calls me, says I'm like the Hulk because I'm always angry. It's always somewhere beneath the surface, but I manage it pretty well. But I do notice when I'm lacking in self-care, I do get very short. I almost feel like it's almost weekly on the weekends with my boys that I end up snapping at them like first thing on a Saturday morning, especially when school is a lot. This last quarter was a lot. So just the pressures of school and everything. And then on the weekend, when I finally get a break and the house is a mess or what have you, I get short. And then I realize I need to reset and focus on me for a second. But anger, my son knows I have a laugh. I have different laughs, but there's a laugh that I do that is a sign that I am to the point where now I'm laughing and it is not acceptable. So my husband has known that laugh for years, but now my oldest is like, oh, he knows the different sound in my laugh when it's like, okay, we need to pull
Your
back.
children are clear indicators. I'm not, even if I think back when I was in relationships, your companion, if they know you, they can recognize those things. But your children are a clear indicator, and they will tell you, in no uncertain terms, Mommy, did you sleep? My son was like, Mommy, did you go to sleep? Like, is something wrong? Are you sick? What is wrong with you? What are you talking about? Yeah, Ma, that's not it. Okay. So your kids are clear indicators, and that, because children are brutally honest.
Yes.
For no reason. So that's a good, the kids know. They know.
That's so funny you say that, because I can tell just by the tone of my mom's voice that something's wrong. And now being in this counseling program, I unintentionally say the right things and she dumps me. I love her. I don't mind carrying her emotional baggage while she needs me. We're both adults. I don't mind doing that. But you're 100% correct that your kids can always tell when you need your self-care.
You make an interesting comment, and that's something else that I'm curious to hear about, is when you are needing, I think a lot of people in the helping profession are just natural helpers, tend to give a lot of themselves. So what do you do when you are in a place where you need some help, but you are continuously getting requested to help? Like when you don't have that to give, but people are still expecting you to give, what do you do in that scenario?
I tell them I can't do it. And this is something Mike has noticed about me too, is I can't say no to certain people, especially my family. It's very difficult because I don't want to say that they intentionally guilt me, but they know I'm a very sensitive person and they know to say the right things to persuade me to do whatever they need me to do, which 9.999 times out of 10, I'll do it regardless of where my headspace is at. But something I've been working on is better communicating with my partner and being more open about saying to him, I don't need you to fix my problem. I've been taking everybody's issues. I need you to just let me dump. Like, I don't care if you're only half listening. Like, that's fine. I don't need you to do reflection of content on me. I just need you to let me spill the tea on you for a hot minute.
What about you, ladies? Do you guys?
I just tell people I'm not peopling today. Like this weekend, my phone is on do not disturb. Some people are texting me talking about, did you block me? No, I did. However, everybody is on do not disturb, and I am selectively answering text messages. Talk to you on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just not a thing for me anymore. And as far as spilling the tea, girl, that is a plus, being able to spill the tea. Because I call my ex-husband all the time, like, look, listen, let me tell you this. And then I just start going. But before, he used to be like, no, I don't care, Mitra. I don't care. I don't know these people. I don't care. Mm-hmm. But then, like Cassie said, she became better at communicating. And I guess I became better at communicating that, hey, just need you to listen. So he's better at it now and actually engages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing. But it's still fun, to have that somebody.
For sure. Yeah, because not everybody has that. Another reason counseling is good, because you need to be able to have that outlet to offload whatever it is. Sometimes it really is just a matter of being able to tell someone and get that off of you. And that makes you feel better, but you need to have that person to be able to offload that too.
I saw something really, really cool in one of those therapy meme groups where somebody had made like a Tumblr thread and it said, do you want comfort or a solution when you're talking to a close friend, a relative about a problem that you're having? Sometimes we just need that comfort, and just knowing that somebody's listening for me is a form of self-care, because then I know the other person cares about me and I'm fulfilling my ego. Going back to Freud.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Do that.
For me, I think it was learning to better communicate with myself and be honest with me, because it became inauthentic with other people. The movie with, I think it was Julia Roberts. Oh, I'm getting old. I used to hate when my parents did this. The movie. Where she kept not marrying people or something, and she started dating a reporter. And it was something about eggs, some weird conversation. Oh, Runaway Bride. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So there was a scene, if you've never seen the movie, there was a scene in the movie where he asked, how do you like your eggs? And it freaked her out because it changed with every person she was with. And then she realized, I think she had the epiphany that she doesn't even like eggs. And that's how I related. It felt like I, at some point, maybe had multiple personalities. You know, you are this way with, and you are this to this person, and you are this to this person. And then it became, let me learn to have the authentic conversations with myself so that I am clear and grounded, so that I'm okay telling you no or yes, you know, when everybody else has said no. And I'm like, hey, it's no big deal. Yeah, that's fine. And we go from there. So that's the conversation was with me before it could be with anybody else. Does that sound selfish? I don't know.
I think you look at selfish a bad way. I think to a degree, everyone needs to be selfish. And that's the thing. So many people, I mean, I will say for myself, until recently, well into adulthood, I would always feel guilty about prioritizing myself ever, especially over my kids. I was like, this is anytime I made extra money, you know, I would love this, but my kids would love this. And then I realized, like, taking care of me, it's true, taking care of you is taking care of other people. If you are in your best space, you function most efficiently. Like, you can do more good by treating yourself well.
Yep.
And that kind of segues into the decision to come back to school. For me, I was able to have a successful career doing something I enjoy, but it wasn't fulfilling me in the way that I wanted it to. And I wanted to be in a position where I would do more good. I felt like I was meant for more. And that's what prompted me to go back to school, having that selfishness and saying, I need to do this for me. For my entire career, for my life, I've been doing it for everyone else and taking care of everyone else. And at this point, I'm going to do this for me. And at the end of the day, it's going to be for other people, but it fulfills me. And that's what I need to do for me.
So what makes it fulfilling for you, or fulfilling? And what am I trying to ask you? Like, what makes going back to school fulfilling for you versus growing further in your career? Since you said it wasn't fulfilling.
So for my career, I've been, you know, I was able to like climb the ladder, run my own departments, and that was great. I liked, you know, supporting the people that worked for me, and I was making good money, and I was helping customers, but like it was all superficial. I've always wanted to help people. Kids are very important to me, and I was like, I could be doing more. Like I have a lot to give, and I just felt like I was stifling what my contribution to humanity through the job that I was doing, and I just wanted to do more in a way that meant more to me. You know, my dad used to always say, to live, to learn, to love, to leave a legacy. And working as a manager in a tech company wasn't my legacy. Like, I want to be more. So then I was like, I found out about school counselors when I was younger. School counselors were guidance counselors and just helped kids get into college. And that was nothing I was inspired by. But now I found out, you know, school counselors are mental health support. A lot of times the only support that kids get outside of their homes. And just seeing my son grow up and some of his peers and the lack of support that they have at home, just finding out that I could be a support for kids was something that I really wanted to get more involved into. So that's what really prompted me to look into going back to school.
So being impactful for children is more so the legacy that you're looking to leave?
I just want to support humanity in some way. It's also part of being disheartened with a lot of the things that you hear and see. And in my mind, you know, it starts with children. Children have to grow up to learn to be, you know, disheartening people. or they can learn to be
Mhm.
empathetic, quality humans who learn to care for one another and treat one another respectfully. So I want to be that resource that helps, foundationally help people be better people. So that's why I was thinking about working with children. Now, as I go through this school process, I'm not sure where I'm going to go after I graduate, but I feel, even with that, I feel like I'm going to make a much bigger humanitarian impact than I would have had I stayed doing what I was doing.
Nice.
What about you guys? What prompted you to go back to school?
I'm not even gonna lie. It was an impulsive decision. So I was getting my bachelor's and all was well. That took 99 million years, right? So I finally get that done. And then I'm like, well, shit. I just crossed the fucking finish line and guess what? I could go further. And like one of my sister's cousins graduated, and he took a picture from the back, and the way it looked like he was a wizard. So then I just became fixated on becoming a wizard. So that was like my motivation, to be honest with you.
True unicorn. In any fashion, that is true unicorn. Okay.
I'm like,
listen.
you know what? My kids are teenagers. It's great. They're pretty self-sufficient. It's cool. I could do this. And then I could fulfill my childhood dreams. So this all works out famously. And best of all, dun, 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 I can be a wizard. So like, oh, that works out for me. So that's, it's I don't have anything really fancy about it. Just it was an impulse. And well, here we are. So that's the thing.
That's so unicorn. For our listeners, you cannot understand how much that is honestly who that fits her personality perfectly. That is so unicorn. Really, 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 really. Why did I do this? I think it was inevitable. I put off school. Life happened. No excuses. It just happened. It was what it was. And when I decided to go back, as I think Cass, is it Cass who says counseling is my jam? Yeah, counseling was not my jam. It kind of became inevitable and the evolution of who I was. I realized I started out in criminal justice and I became disheartened the older my son became, because the people that I was coming in contact started to look more and more like him, or vice versa. He started to look more and more like them, and I couldn't continue to do that. So what I thought was in myself, and I add in myself as a caveat because I am a firm believer of praying and letting God guide you and give you wisdom. So I had figured out in myself that education would be the way to go. We are a reactive society instead of a proactive society. So I thought transitioning from criminal justice, the reactive approach, to education would be the proactive approach. Little did I know, those are the flip sides of the same coin, in my humble opinion, seeing the inner workings of both. So had I probably got some wisdom from God, would have made sense to, go ahead and do this process, because this was not my plan. Lord, this was not my plan. However, I can clearly see the evolution now, and it makes sense because not every problem, but a majority of the problems that are faced by my former students, a lot of those things, a lot of those generational things that they face, they're repeating the same cycles, come from untreated or maybe undiagnosed, or diagnosed and then untreated. But either way, a fear of the mental health community. And had they been treated and diagnosed, or diagnosed and treated, you know what I mean, then they wouldn't have a lot of the same cycles that they
absolutely,
are a part of. Older generations in my community, they would say things like, they have those spells, or I hear it now that I'm in let's be honest, I'm just in the country. I'm in the backwoods of the country. She used to have those spells. What are those spells? I don't understand. But they would be talking about breaks. Like she would have psychotic breaks, or they would be bipolar and then they would be manic, or they just had a spell here or there, or things like that. So it became the evolution. Now, being the extra people that these Supremes are, no one said jump in and do a dual master's program, but of course here we are. And I am on the other side of this. There's a scripture in the Bible that says God will redeem the time. And I think I wasted a lot of time doing other things and prioritizing other things and being a mom. I'm not going to negate that. That was my choice to focus on my son. And I laugh at you, Jules, for saying you're obsessed with your kids. But if you knew me 5 years ago, any other time, 4 years ago, my son, at this point, 2 years ago, he was my priority. And in some respects, he still is. He's my kid. He's always going to be a priority. So I make those conscious decisions and choices.
I will adjust to one thing you said. You said you wasted a lot of time doing something else, but I feel my perspective is a little bit different. So my path was kind of random in what I ended up doing. It wasn't at all intentional. And I excelled and I was able to advance. And while it wasn't fulfilling for me, it offered me so much knowledge and so much experience in different areas that I think it's only for the better. It's something totally different, and I'm switching careers and switching gears entirely. But I've gained so much experience and knowledge that I wouldn't have had I just started in counseling, right after undergrad. So I feel like all of our experience and all of our time, there's always something gained. It's never entirely wasted. It might not be our ideal situation, but there's always something gained, at least in my perspective.
I agree with that. When I say wasted, I went to what we call in the African American community a PWI, a predominantly white institution, for my undergraduate experience. And there was some negative things that happened in that experience. And I walked away. I quit in the middle of a semester, and I walked away with less than 3.6 undergrad is 3 hours. So maybe I needed 9 hours to graduate, and I walked away. I literally said, the hell with it. I'm done, and I'm not going back, and I will live and maintain the way I live and maintain where I'm at. And I stayed that way and was content until I wasn't content anymore. So I wasted time. I was justified. Don't let me tell you I wasn't justified, but I wasted time being angry at systemic things that I didn't take advantage of, what I needed. There are some realities being African American in predominantly non-African American organizations and entities and things of that nature. So I wasted years refusing to go back to school because it would have taken, the education system is crazy. It would have taken so much more money and work to go to another institution to complete undergrad versus going. And I vowed, I was like, I will never give this institution any more of my money, my energy, my time. And I was angry, and I just had to stop being angry. So I wasted beneath where I should have been.
Do you think that experience will give you such good insight and just relational experience to future clients, potentially having gone through that experience?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely, so I can attach what you said about it not being wasted. For me, in one aspect, it was a waste because I stayed at a particular level career wise. I had the knowledge and people wanted me to go to the next level, but I could not because I didn't have the credentials to do it. And on the flip side, it humbled me in a way that I wasn't humbled. I remember you saying our last podcast, you were like, maybe was it great self-esteem or self-view, maybe a little inflated self-view? And I was like, well, yeah, it was. I don't have a problem with that. I think people need to learn how to inflate their self-view, because if you don't view you well, no one else will. And you must have that level of understanding first. But I let that limit me. And when you give things power over you, that's a part of self-care. I gave that situation power over me for years and I would not move past it. And the moment I decided to go back to school, it literally just was for the credentials. The moment I decided to do that, I literally went through and it was like, boom, bam, boom, let's go. So when I say this dual program is not for everybody and is not for the faint of heart, for me, it was to redeem the time. So it seems like it's extra and it's a lot. People that are in school with us now, they're like, oh my God, I don't know how you do the dual program. They tell us that all the time. We don't know how you have 4.0s. They tell us that all the time. How do you take extra classes? They tell us that all the time. However, for me, it is not to, and it sounds maybe like it is not to brag or boast. For me, I understand my story and you see where I am now. You do not see where I came from, and you do not understand the level of fortitude it took for me to press past what was happening. So I laugh and I joke when we started this, and I'm like, listen, there's something that happens over 40. There is a clear understanding for me that I don't have the time to waste for anything, to give you anger, to give you that kind of power over me, to give you my judgment, to give you any of those negative things. Like I really don't have the energy for that. So it all kind of spirals into one for me. The reason to do this, the reason that I am adamant about self-care, because I think, as we all have said and expressed, we spend a lot of time not caring for ourselves and not, leaving ourselves on the bottom of the totem pole. Well, if I do this, then they'll be okay. If I do this, I mentioned the movie, I'm this for this person, and I'm this for this person. And they like this, so I'll like this too. And they do this, and I'll do this too. And I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that's not, nope, I don't want that. I don't like that. I won't do that. And I have become very comfortable with no. Unicorn was like, I put the phone on do not disturb. Listen, I don't even have to do that. I will not. I will shut it off and I will see you. And look, I don't want to talk to you. I don't even feel the need to explain myself as to why, but I understand because the conversation you have with me at that moment will be detrimental to you, not me. So, and I don't want to be detrimental. I don't want to wind up in jail. Again, I look good in most colors, and orange is got to be the right shade, as Cass knows. Kind of burnt. Yes. Burnt rust, burnt orange, kind of, not sunny side up, egg yellow kind of, orange thing kind of. So, it really, I'm joking about it, but there is a foundation of severity that it cost so many years. It cost me being angry at people who had no reason for me to be angry at them, angry because you finished and I didn't, angry because you made it out and I didn't, angry because I'm still stuck, and you don't like it, change it. So that's kind of how it all tumbles together. So you don't like it, change it.
I love that you just said, you won't let anything have power over you, because that is so important. Like, that is self-care, just allowing yourself to have the power in your life to control what you're doing. And that is huge. I love that.
I tried. Thank you.
What about you, Cass? What made you come back to school?
As we talked about, I think on the Love Language podcast, me and my fiance went from 0 to 100, and I supported him throughout his career. We actually met right after I got my bachelor's. So I originally was only going to take off a year and then go back to grad school, because I knew I wanted to be a counselor. Because I had, actually, when I went to junior college, I had this one abnormal psych professor who, he worked in Chicago, and he was the man who picked up the homeless schizophrenics, drug addicts on the side of the road, took them into rehabilitation programs, took them into the prisons, and he was the one who would rehabilitate them. So I always knew that this was the realm that I wanted to go into. Yeah, he was the coolest professor. He was a bit weird, but he was really cool. So 1 year goes by, 2 years goes by, still didn't go back to school. And then one day I just told him, I'm like, number one, I need to make more money, because, it's all about them bags, girls.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I'm not happy with any of the jobs I'm at. I was a case manager, which I loved my clients, but I didn't necessarily like the social work aspect of the position. It was more about how many referrals can we get out versus are we really making an impact? And I feel like with counseling, even though you're making an impact on just one individual, that stems to every aspect of their life. I was just having this conversation with a family member who was actually very resistant to the whole therapeutic process, but he kind of opened his eyes to the whole process, and he was like, this is the best decision I've ever made, because not only is he learning to take care of himself, it's affecting and impacting the relationships around him, because he's overall a more positive person. And I told him, I'm like, that's why I'm going into counseling. Like, not only are we making an impact on that person's life, it's everybody around them. It's all a part of their system, and their family system, their friend system, their work system, that all is working together as one. But yeah, I told Mike one day, I'm just like, I need to get my life together. So I told him, I'm like, you are in a career that you love. I need to be where I want to be, and not that counselors make a whole lot of money, but it's more so about going back to that impact we have on others' lives and being in the helping profession. Had I not had counselors in my life, I also would not be where I am or who I am today. They not only challenged me, but they also inspired me to be a self-advocate, be my own catalyst for change, know what my triggers are. So yeah, I want to be doing something that I'm passionate about for the rest of my life. And going through this program has just reiterated that I am where I need to be.
I like your comment too about being proactive. I think that's what really differentiated for me whether I wanted to go into psychiatry or psychology or counseling, because counseling is really preventative, proactive, which is how I try to live my life. I think if you foundationally build a strong foundation and good habits and good behaviors, that's more impactful than being reactive.
Mhm.
which is how I try to live my life, which is what really drew me to counseling. I love the proactive nature and just the ability to help people help themselves. Because
Mhm.
at the end of the day, that's the most important. Your clients have to be able to help themselves because you don't want them to need you. You
Yeah.
want them to have the tools to, do whatever they need to do to succeed to their fullest potential.
Yeah, I was just gonna say we're the person who gives them all the tools to put into their toolbox, put into their tool strap that they carry around their waist every day, and our clients, like you said, won't need us forever, but they'll appreciate us for the rest of their lives. They'll always remember that one counselor that
Mhm.
helped shift their whole mindset.
I love that too, that you pointed that out, because if you remember, I know everyone has like something, that one instance where you were feeling a certain type of way or something, and then someone made a comment or something that changed your whole day, changed your whole perspective. And the smallest thing can be so meaningful to someone's life.
Yep.
And that's really what I want to be. That's again why I wanted to work with kids or families potentially, just to give them that one piece that they can carry with them so they have the tools they need to thrive.
I think you explained it well for me, from my perspective, because I said earlier, it sounds like, I guess, a lot, but it pretty much is the same thing. I needed a proactive approach. I take a proactive approach. When we were talking in an earlier podcast about, I want to say maybe our love languages, that could have been in one of these conversations. And I said, there is a need to be almost not narcissistic in a sense, that we kind of control things. I think you and I kind of agreed on that and had this control issue. It is that in part, but it is me taking the proactive approach. How can I fix this? How can I take care of this and fix this issue? I can see the issue coming. How do I fix it before it becomes an issue? How do I do that? And I try to take that approach with every area of my life. And as we've had these different conversations, it's come out in different ways, but the foundation of that for me comes from how I made this decision and how the evolution of my life went. And we've set it in that of being, narcissistic, of being the control freak, careful of using that word, but control freak, all the things we've ascribed to ourselves. And I'm saying it wasn't just Julie and I ascribing them to ourselves, but, how we react in this situation, it all boils down to me of taking a proactive approach and not a reactive approach. I don't want to react to something because I don't want to react negatively, intentionally, because I understand when emotions are involved, things can escalate to unwanted measures. So for me, it was about the way you just explained it, taking a proactive approach. And this degree path allowed a proactive approach. I think for all four of us, there is a desire to continue past this point. And part of that desire, I know at least some of us have had this conversation, is about, man, we've had some jacked up professors. And listen, I don't want to be that professor later on. So we're taking a proactive approach now, because part of our career goals is to then become counselor educators, and so that we can cut off, this problem that we see now, this problem that we see now, this problem. So in every area of my life, it becomes proactive instead of reactive, and that takes the form of semi looking like a control freak, or semi looking like you're narcissistic, or semi looking like, and it's not that I want to control every area, is that I want to cut off because I can see the potential harm that lies ahead. And I think that's a skill that will help each of us, because I think that's something each of us possess, which is why we had the fortitude to come together and do this, and why we had the fortitude to come together and just come together. Forget and just come together. You didn't just gravitate by happenstance. So part of that was that same proactive approach, whether we named it that or not, and having that ability with someone sitting in front of you who may be in that heightened state, whose emotions may have taken control when our children are raging, when our spouses, our companions, when our parents are whatever, whomever that who is, it's not relevant for this particular conversation. I think having that ability to take that proactive approach, how can I do the preemptive strike, if you will, so that it doesn't eliminate all situations and it doesn't alleviate all problems. However, for me, it puts you in a better position to handle, so that even if your self-care is not where it should be, it doesn't overwhelm you to the point to completely knock you off kilter.
Mm-hmm. To that comment, it is very important that we, as future counselors, prioritize our self-care continuously. You know, we advocate for counseling, and counselors advocate for counseling. You know, counselors see other counselors because it's difficult to give so much of yourself and to absorb all of that emotion. So a lot of people have difficulty managing self-care, especially if they're helpers in their own life, or they have a lot of people dumping grief or emotion or responsibility on them. So that's what you use counseling for, because everyone needs that release. Even if you are the helper, you still need to prioritize yourself and be able to just dump your own stuff on someone just to get it out.
It sounds unfortunate to say it that way, but it is very true.
Yeah, it's not like the happiest spin, but it is true. You know, a lot of people, it's especially with people that are very highly empathetic, are generally the one that everyone goes to. So they're absorbing way more, you know, negativity than the average person. And even that person, even no matter how strong you are, because a lot of those people are also very strong, you still need your outlet and your release.
Yep.
Because it's okay to not be okay. And that's when you pick up your self-care.
And, you know, for somebody who does not come from a counseling background, and oddly enough, I've never actually seen a counselor. Okay, that's not one session I did, and that was just very recently, but and that wasn't my choice to do, which is, I guess, very odd, but I think it gives me a different perspective going into this process for those that, and I can't say I was ever really hesitant, or I'm even hesitant now. It just never dawned on me to say, go to counseling. And now it is the first thing I say, which means I probably need to find a counselor, but that's a whole nother segment. But it's the first thing I say now, because now I see things. I understand that you're processing probably reactively to your trauma, and sometimes trauma you didn't know you had. And I am receiving reactively based on and through my trauma that I did not know I had. So we are now all reactive, and we did not take the steps to proactively handle and approach these situations. So now you are reacting in your trauma and you're hearing me through your trauma, and I am reactively receiving through my trauma. And dude, we all need to go to counseling. Let's just be honest. We all, and nobody says that. So coming from this perspective, I think it makes it much easier for me to say, I just came home and told my son, listen, you're going to have to go to counseling, and we may need to go together, but you're going to have to work some things out, and that's a part of my self-care now, because I'm not dealing with little ones like Jules or Mitra. You're an adult now. I don't have to put up with adult stuff. Like, let's just be honest. And we need a new way to interact. And I need it, quite honestly, right. Because as both of you have multiple children, and I have 2 technically, and processing through the stages of childhood, the way you parented your infant is not the way you parent your 2-year-old. It is not the way you parent your 10-year-old. And it's not the way eventually you'll parent your teenager. Mitra understands that transition, and then the transition into adulthood. Like, dude, you're killing my self-care. I need to because I didn't understand the boundaries. That's what we talked about last week. I did not understand the new boundary, and it became a hindrance on my self-care because I was doing more than what I need to, because you're not little anymore, and it's not my job. So saying, I think we need to go to, we need to, okay, I said you, but I did eventually say we in that conversation. You need to do that. Like, and it has to be okay to say, you need to do this. We need to do this. And I found saying that statement was profoundly helpful to my self-care. And it was profoundly helpful to say, A, B, and C cannot be done with me. And this is the boundary that I've set, and I'm okay with that. I don't feel the need to justify it or explain it. And then I realized, oh, okay, that's self-care. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. So I think they continuously revolve one around the other. And the more I develop self-care habits, the more I realize why I made this decision to go into this area of this career path and take this journey, because this journey is not for the faint of heart, as the Supremes know. This journey is 3 years of continuous counseling yourself. It is 3 years of a very long counseling session that all the things we'll eventually ask of others, like, it is compounded from every area to do it over and over again. Dude, I don't have anything else to unpack. And once you figure out, as soon as you say that, then it's something else to unpack. This is hurting my self-care. I'm just telling you, this is not it. But it has helped to establish a lot of those boundaries. It has helped to establish routines of self-care. I think for my very first quarter, like, we had to put a perspectives together of what our self-care routines would look like. And I remember specifically having a conversation, why in the heck do we have to do this? Like, this is so stupid. And now 4 quarters in, I'm like, oh my God, what file did we put that in? What did we say we were going to, who was I going to call? Like, and hence the Supremes are created, because I think it was a form of self-care.
For sure.
Yeah,
for
each other's lifelines sometimes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's a good point too is just counseling itself is self-care, and not just, a lot of people look at counseling as you have to have problems that you need to deal with, trauma that you need to deal with, and that's not the only reason for counseling. Like we were talking about, it's proactive. So as Ebony mentioned, you're going through those transitions, your child is growing, you don't have the tools yet because you haven't experienced it. Counseling gives you the tools to deal with what's coming next. It's a maintenance. You don't have to have all these major things wrong with you to get support to be more efficient and effective and happy in your life. It's maintenance for your self-care. It's just taking care of you, taking care of your relationships.
Absolutely. I agree wholeheartedly. Like, I don't think anything's wrong with my childhood. I think it was great. And, it was perfect in all senses until I lost my parent. And then as I began to unpack this stuff, listen, there was some trauma I didn't realize was trauma. So yeah, these are things that impact how you make decisions later.
So ladies, as we wrap up this conversation, we've talked a lot about our own self-care and the benefits of counseling. Let's hear your final thoughts on the topic.
Remember to take care of yourself first. You cannot save anyone else if you do not save yourself.
Love that.
Well said. Don't go to jail. And if you haven't listened, then you need to start at the beginning so you know why you shouldn't go to jail, but let's not go to jail. And
yes.
Following Mitra's train of thought, you cannot pour from an empty vessel. It is imperative that you take care of you. And it's okay to take care of you. It's okay to take care of your mind, your spirit, your body. We advocate going to counseling, clearly. But however you do that, whether you choose to seek out a mentor or seek out a counselor, whether spiritual or in the secular world, whatever it is you choose to do, exercise, become vegan-ish, whatever it is you choose to do. Don't not do. Don't feel that you need a reason or an excuse. Just do.
The best time to start is now. You can't change your self-care routines of the past, but you can change what you'll do for yourself in the future. And circling back to reasons why we went back to school, and Ebony, you said you questioned why we had to talk about self-care in a discussion post, and it's clear to see that your mindset has changed when it comes to self-care. And I know mine has, even over the past year that we've been in school. My mindset has changed, and knowing the importance of taking care of your mind and finding what works best for you is so important. And don't be afraid to explore different activities. Like, I do yoga, I do crafting, I go on walks with my puppy. Self-care, it's not one thing. It's a whole spectrum of things that you can do that works for you.
Absolutely. And just be kind to yourself, especially, to be kind to others and respectful to others. Do that for you. Whatever you need to be kind to yourself, you owe that to yourself. That's the one thing you can control. When everything else is out of your control, you can control the way you treat yourself. So treat yourself well, because you deserve it.
Give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's on period.
It's the process. Give yourself grace.
So thank you everyone for taking the time to have this conversation with us. We hope that you utilize lots of self-care techniques, and we'd love to hear what you do to prioritize self-care and to take care of yourself. And make sure that you check us out next week.
Thanks,
Bye
guys.
everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.